Welcome to Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Shipp, and I'm excited to be sharing with you my life with a son on the spectrum. This podcast is for anyone who is looking for quick tips and perspective, but most of all, for hope and inspiration. So sit back, relax, and let's put the pieces together. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Shipp. Thank you so much for joining us today. Last week we had the great pleasure of speaking with Ms. Penny Wilson. We had a great conversation on how to step out of reactive drama and step into a place of connected and healthy relationships. If you didn't get a chance to tune into that episode, please do. We had a wonderful conversation. And thanks again, Penny, for being on the show. Today, we have a truly incredible guest joining us. Jennifer Kaufman brings a unique and powerful perspective to the autism community. She lives and breathes autism support from two very different sides of the desk. For nearly 20 years, Jennifer has been the principal of a school serving students with autism and special needs, but her professional world became deeply personal when her grandchild was diagnosed with autism at the age of 4. Suddenly, she saw the journey through the eyes of a family member. She is the author of Grandparenting on the Spectrum, A Journey from Both Sides of the Desk, a wonderful resource full of practical strategies and emotional support. On top of her duties as a principal and grandmother, Jennifer is also the founder of First Response Autism. Through this amazing organization, she trains police departments and first responders on how to effectively support and safely interact with the neurodiverse individuals in the community. Jennifer gets it. She knows the fears that parents and grandparents stay up at night about, and she celebrates the massive breakthroughs too. Please join me in welcoming the amazing Jennifer to the show. Thank you so much for being here, Jennifer.
Well, thank you. And that was quite the introduction. I appreciate it.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to make sure I wasn't butchering your gorgeous like history and what you've accomplished. So I'm glad hopefully I did it a little bit of justice. So that's good. So tell me a little bit, Jennifer. I'm so excited to talk to you because when we had our conversation initially, I find it so unique that you're a grandparent that has a grandchild with autism, and we don't hear from too many grandparents. So I knew immediately I wanted to have you on the show because I think it's so important for everyone to get perspective that's a family member that has somebody with autism. So you have such a unique dual perspective. And I'm just curious, how did your professional view as a principal change the moment that you realized your grandchild was diagnosed?
Well, as a school principal, as somebody who had been in special education for so very many years, I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
So, I had the credentials, the language. I had been in hundreds of IEP meetings. And then suddenly it was my grandson. And I sat on the other side of that table for the first time.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I wasn't the expert in the room. I was the grandmother. That changed everything about how I understand what families are going through when they walk into my school.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said your grandchild was diagnosed at age 4. Tell us a little bit about him.
Oh, where do I even begin?
I know.
He's my heart. He's my everything. Ben is just a bright, lovely boy who is happy and very sweet. His communication, he's working on it, but it's limited. At first, a few years ago, he had very, very few words. And now he's 8 years old, and I'm seeing him to start to advocate for himself and for, if he's hungry, he might ask for something to eat or to drink. And, every day's an adventure, and it's just constantly changing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. And it's really fun when you see them start to have those light bulb moments. They start to have, and we call them moments of belief in our home because when I realized that Drayson was capable of certain things, I was like, oh, and it would encourage me to want to keep going to help him more because I could see the potential that he had and that he still has, but I think it's so unique for you stepping into that grandparent role, and also now kind of stepping into some advocacy as well, because being that voice, you don't often hear, like I said, from a grandparent that's taking this approach that you're taking, which I think is absolutely fantastic. What inspired you to write your book? I know it's called Grandparenting on the Spectrum, but why is it so important that we speak directly to grandparents?
You know, nobody was talking to grandparents, especially
Yeah,
grandparents who have kids on
yeah.
the spectrum. And I myself, with my whole background, my education, I was finding myself making a lot of mistakes. And a lot of those mistakes were based on my own beliefs of what a grandparent should be.
Mm-hmm.
I had to really shift my expectations and what my vision was in terms of my own, being a grandma.
Yeah,
And that process is what led me to write this book.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's such a good, interesting point too that you bring up, because I don't think that I realized that my parents might be grieving a little bit about what they thought that their grandchild was going to be, or what they were hoping that relationship would look like. And so it never occurred to me until much later that maybe that was really hard on them as well.
Yeah, and
You
you
know.
really, as a grandparent, you have
Mm-hmm.
this vision. You have this vision of what you're going to be doing, and you're
Yeah.
looking at yourself as an expert because you raised your own kids. And
Yeah.
so,
Rite of passage.
you should have something to say about that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to people who have kids on the spectrum, parents who have kids on the spectrum, you really have to defer to them as the experts in what the child needs, where they're at that moment.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's my biggest lesson that I learned.
Wow, that's fantastic. What do you feel is the biggest misconception that you see grandparents have about autism? I know for me, I felt like there could have potentially been some cultural stigmas for that I would have to combat to break down those barriers for Drayson. But in your case, what do you feel has been some of the biggest misconceptions that you see grandparents hold?
Sure, I think that sometimes grandparents think that autism looks one way, right?
Mm-hmm.
They look at the way the media presents it. They've seen the movie Rain Man, and they're still picturing that as what autism is.
Yeah.
But autism truly is that spectrum. Your grandchild might be nonverbal. They might be a kid who
Mm-hmm.
talks your ear off for 45 minutes all about trains. This is right.
Yeah.
The misconception that holds families back the most
Yeah.
is thinking, well, he doesn't seem autistic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they think that's a compliment, but it's really not. It just means that you don't understand the complete diagnosis yet.
Yeah, I heard that a lot actually. "Oh, he doesn't look autistic." I would hear that from
Yeah.
people, or I would hear, "Oh, he'll probably grow out of it."
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Or maybe you just need to have a firmer discipline, or you just
Right,
need to take a harder line. And it's just
right.
so
Or
far from the
you're
truth.
too soft. You need to do, you need to be stricter. That
Right.
kind of thing. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I
Yeah.
would hear that a lot
Yeah.
too.
But
Um,
a grandparent who has that shift in perspective can really be a game changer for a family. Can just
yeah.
become very supportive.
Absolutely. And I'm very grateful. My parents have very much jumped on board with, us helping Drayson, and have asked a lot of questions throughout the years. I mean, it's been 11 years since Drayson was diagnosed, but we still have conversations, and I still get questions from my parents about what are we working on? What are we doing? Those types of things, because I think it helps give them perspective as well. And
Hmm.
I'm very, very blessed because I feel very supported by my parents. But and then that kind of leads me into my next question. How can grandparents truly support their adult children who are raising an autistic child without, there's a fine line, right? We don't want to overstep boundaries. So, do you have any advice in regards to that?
I think that the most important thing is to follow the parent's lead and to really listen to what's being said.
Yeah,
As a grandparent, your job's not to fix it. It's not to
yeah,
question therapy choices.
yeah,
It's not to slip the kid food he's not supposed to have because, it won't hurt. A little won't hurt.
yeah.
which I have been guilty of doing with Oreos. Um,
You're all, which may or may not have happened.
yeah, no, I got a call from my daughter the other day, and she said, "Did you put an Oreo in his pocket before he left the last time?" And I said, "I might
Maybe.
have, maybe." So perfect. We're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for
Right.
grandparents to really show up, listen to what's needed, ask like, what does a hard day look like? What can I do to help? And then listen to the answer without defending yourself
Yeah.
or accusing or criticizing.
Yeah. Do you find that that's a hard shift as a parent? Because my oldest is 30, and is engaged and is going to be having children soon as well. And so I always think, is it hard? Because I don't know, and that's why I'm asking, to shift from kind of parenting, right? You've always been that parent
Mm-hmm.
role for your child, from shifting from parenting to now more of like, I'm here to support you and to follow your lead. To me, that's also a huge act of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that would be difficult to do at first. Did you find that was difficult at first?
You know, and this is part of the motivation for writing the book. It's because I thought it would be difficult, but it's not, because it improves the communication so much
Okay.
that it allows you to like approach things with a little bit more joy
Yes.
versus being critical or
Yeah.
being feeling like it's your responsibility to somehow come up with a solution or fix things.
Yeah.
Rather, you listen to what's needed,
Right.
try to do that, and then do it in a joyful way. And it
Yeah.
just takes that pressure off of everybody.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. I just wonder sometimes, because sometimes I feel like I'm not trying to parent my oldest son, but sometimes I feel like I'm being too much of a mom to him, and I don't want to do that because
Hmm.
he's an adult now, and I
Right.
write like it's kind of like, it's funny because I tell him all the time, I'm like, I'm still going to stress out. It's just a different kind of stress now. I
Right.
still stress
Right.
out because you're my son and I worry, but like, there's it's just a different kind of stress. So,
Yeah, because like I'm talking about autism, but really this shifting from being a parent of a little one to the parent of an adult is
yes.
just, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
shift.
So some of the most wonderful conversations I've had with my oldest son, Cody, is been as an adult. We've had,
Hmm.
now that we survived the teenage years, we survived, we survived through 20s, and some of the best conversations I've had with him have been as an adult. And I feel very blessed that he comes to me to still talk to me, because I feel that that's important for the relationship as well. You know,
It's great.
yeah, I'm really lucky. I'm very, very blessed. Can you share a few simple ways grandparents can make their homes more welcoming, comfortable for their autistic grandchild? This was something that, like, I know that I had to go into every environment, even in my parents' home, and like almost survey everything to make sure it was okay for Drayson.
Sure.
Do you have any quick tips for that?
Well, there's always the usual tips whenever a little child goes into a new environment in terms of
Right.
covering outlets and things like that. But when a child has sensory needs, paying
Yes.
attention to the lighting, right?
Yes.
Keeping the lights low, if that's going to help. Looking at background sounds. You
Mm-hmm.
might want, if you have a loud environment, if you're playing music, you normally play loud music in your house, like turn it down or shut it off,
Mm-hmm.
just to create a more sensory friendly environment. We have a quiet room. Like I have a guest room
Oh,
with a little bed in
wonderful.
it, and if he wants to go there, his toys are there. He knows he can go there to remove himself from maybe a situation that's too social or there's just too much going on.
That's
Um,
wonderful.
I make sure I have preferred snacks.
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that there's something familiar. Like predictability is huge. With
Yes.
Ben, he will come to my house and always go into the closet and take out a train set, this little
Mm-hmm.
portable train set that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been going on for a few years. And
Yeah.
it's not even that he always wants to play with that. It's just that it's familiar. It's a
Yeah.
routine that he does. And so we don't change it. In fact, one day I said, "Oh, I'm going to bring the train set over to some relative's house." And my daughter was like, "No, no, 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 leave it there because that
Yeah.
is the grandma house train set."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so again, just creating an environment at grandma's house where they can relax.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. We had to secure my parents' dogs at first. That was a big deal.
Sure.
When Drayson was younger, he was terrified of dogs. No, he's not anymore. Now we've got 3 of our own. But I remember having to make sure, and they were small dogs. They're all small dogs that my parents have. So it's not like they have big dogs, no like German Shepherds or anything like that. But he was terrified of the dogs. And that was probably one of the biggest things that I had to, even the barking, I think the sensory started to bother him too much with the barking.
Sure.
And he didn't know how to regulate himself. And so securing the animals was kind of a big deal for us. And then eventually headphones, because I think as he developed some aversion to like loud sounds.
Hmm.
But so I always make sure I have headphones on me wherever I go.
Yeah,
But
that's so helpful.
yeah, absolutely. And it's smart that you left the train at your house. She's right, because it's funny, Drayson, now that he's older and he verbalizes things, if I had done that, he probably would have looked at me and said, "But this is the train that's supposed to be at grandma's house."
Exactly.
They are so it's I think it's really interesting how siloed they are in their routines depending on which environment they're going to and what they're familiar with.
Right, because
You
they have
know.
expectations too, just like we
Yes.
do. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So it just looks a little different, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I want to talk really briefly about first response autism and how your advocacy work kind of evolved into training police and first responders. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I'm happy to. So, grandparents have lots of experience. They've raised kids themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they have to do with first responders? Well, first responders have a tremendous amount of experience. They have
Mm-hmm.
expectations, and they are dealing with people in their community who may be neurodiverse, they may have autism, and I kept hearing the same stories in the news of misunderstandings between
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement and community members, where a community member's lack of eye contact, not lack of communication, or maybe behavior was
Mm-hmm.
creating these really terrible situations because of just that lack of understanding.
Yeah.
Um, and so uh, I created this organization in order to provide that support, to really
Mm-hmm.
understand on a personal level what supporting an autistic community member might look like.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always tell them is, it's if somebody is struggling in a crisis situation, it's
Yeah.
not, and they have autism or they're neurodiverse, it's not that they're giving you a hard time,
Yeah.
it's that they are having a hard time.
Yeah.
And
Very
shifting
true.
that perspective, sometimes I hear like sort of like gasp in the room when I say that, because
Yeah.
um, that shift can prevent a lot of crisis, a lot
Yeah.
of situations going bad, once you realize it's the person struggling.
Yeah.
They're not doing it intentionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And do you find that you're able to kind of also share that knowledge with not just first responders, but educational, teachers? Like, are there teachers and people in the educational community that also want that knowledge as well, or do you find that this is also strictly beneficial for first responders?
Well, I'm fortunate to work in a school that is incredibly well versed in
Yes.
autism and de-escalating situations, and I know that many
Yes.
schools do provide that. But schools that don't, I do
Yeah.
offer trainings for faculty that want more information about how to support students who are autistic. And again,
Autistic. Yeah.
autism is such a spectrum that they have kids in their classrooms that need that extra support, and
Yeah.
they might not know how to give it. So
Right.
I provide simple ways, simple techniques
Mm-hmm.
to help support
And your
community
training
members.
is live. It's not like an online training, or is it what's the format of how you execute your training?
I create formats in whatever format works for that
Whatever
particular
works.
department. So yeah, I've done virtual trainings. I love doing in-person trainings because of that interaction,
Yeah.
because I hear so many stories and I get to interact with the officers who are out in the field,
Yeah.
and address their questions directly. I do have some prepared trainings, but I prefer that live, if whether it's
The
virtual or in
hands-on.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
That makes sense. And that's great. I think it's really beneficial for our first responders to be able to ask questions. And I think sometimes, and I worked in higher education for better half of a decade, and we would have to take certifications or look into, different training methods and teaching methods and things like that. And I always found the least successful ones were the online ones. It was like,
Right,
okay, you're
exactly.
just checking off the box. You know what I mean?
Trying
So,
to get through it. Right.
right, exactly. Like, oh, I've got to get this done. It's at deadline and I've got to get it done because it's required of me to do so.
Right.
You
An,
know?
an interesting
Yeah.
evolution an interesting turn that this has taken is, I've been contacted by campus security teams and I've been providing training on college and
Oh,
university
that's
campuses.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're interested, of course, in supporting their diverse communities and
Yes.
visitors to their campus who might be on the spectrum. So it's been
Yes.
really exciting to see the interest.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to hear that a lot of universities and colleges are starting to implement neurodiverse education. I know there's the universities here in Arizona. They're working on establishing for neurodiverse college students as well, curriculum
Hmm.
based and modifications and things like that. And I think that that's wonderful because it still gives them the opportunity to attend.
Right.
Because I think in the past it was very, very difficult. And I love that campus security is also taking an interest in that too, because I mean, you know, there's de-escalation everywhere potentially that could happen that's
Hmm.
not familiar to their normal environment. And so I think the more aware we are, the better. And I always tell people it's not just modifying or catering to them, it's also just to help them to feel included in the community, which I do feel is very beneficial for both sides, you know.
Absolutely. That
Yeah.
inclusion piece is huge.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard some great success stories with your training. Can you share maybe a fun story or something that was really profound when you received feedback from what you're doing out in the community right now?
My favorite part of a training is at the end when I have officers come up to me to explain to me a situation that they were in and whether or not they did the right thing.
Yeah.
And we have these conversations. There was one gentleman that was talking to me about a student having a behavior on a school bus. And they got there and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know if they should, escort that student off of the bus or if they should remove all of the other students until that student could be de-escalated. And just having that conversation and exploring like what the options looked like, and that leaving the student on the bus while he is able to, and helping him to de-escalate was the better option for the scenario he was describing, than escorting the student off the bus as if he was a criminal or had done something wrong.
Right.
That was interesting. I also spoke with a firefighter who told me a really cool story that they were trained to, if they're looking for someone in a smoky situation and it's a child who is neurodiverse, they'd put their hands up and say, "Hey, give me a high five." And they'd walk through the smoky room saying, "Give me a high five, give me a high five." Because kids with autism, many times, right, you're smiling. That's
Yeah.
that's like a basic form of communication. Hey,
Yeah.
give me a high five. So if a student was hiding underneath a bed or in a closet and they couldn't find them, that
Yeah.
high five would get them out from their
Yeah.
hiding space, and
Yeah.
like they were able to get them out of the dangerous situation. I thought that was a pretty cool story.
That is a really cool story. Yeah, I'm smiling because that I can get, sometimes I can't get a hug out of Drayson, but I can get a high five or knuckles. Like,
Right.
I can get that response easily from Drayson. So that's why it made me smile because I was like, oh, we do high fives a lot in our house.
Yeah. So if he's ever hiding on you, just tell him to give you a high five.
I was just about to say, well, next time he's hiding, I know what to ask for and
Yeah.
maybe he'll come out.
Right.
Um, Can you share a story when we kind of are talking about stories right now, but where your professional knowledge was completely transformed by your personal experience as a grandmother? Because I just love that you have this infusion of perspective with that.
Hmm.
Can you think of a story or a time where that really intermingled for you?
Well, I can tell you that truly having somebody in my family with autism and truly experiencing being with them 24 hours a day and providing that support 24 hours a day
Mm-hmm.
shifted my understanding of what we needed to help our families with at school.
Yeah.
Because, we're dealing with our kids for 6 hours, 7 hours a day. We see the parents during IEP meetings or clinics.
Yeah.
Um, but really shifting my mindset to understand that whatever they were telling us was a problem was a
Yeah.
much bigger problem than what we were imagining,
Right.
because it is so pervasive at home, and you're with your child all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're children who need support. It might be 2 o'clock in the morning. You're up with your child because they're up all night.
Yep.
Um, and I
Yeah.
think understanding that and experiencing it myself was a game changer.
Yeah, no, and I think that's wonderful that you were able to see that perspective, because that's a lot of things that people don't see. They don't see the
Right.
sleepless nights. They don't see, the moments where, like, I've gone into the closet and just cried. Like,
Hmm.
I've just gone, or I've gone into the bathroom, and I've just cried. Like, so that Drayson doesn't see it, but yet, I'm so overwhelmed, and it's just so overbearing with all the different things that I have to think about and I have to do. And then on top of just regular normal life. Right. And,
Right.
and so I think that it's wonderful that you can mention that and that you saw that as a parent, because I think sometimes people don't see that, because we put on that face too. I would go out and put on
Right.
that face.
Yep.
And so I think it's really, really amazing that you were able to really see that perspective, because not everybody usually does. Because again, it's to no fault of anybody's, right? We're kind of siloed in our way of thinking, or we're siloed in our job, or whatever it is that we're working on. So we don't always see outside of the lines, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So true.
absolutely. What is one thing that you wish someone had told you when you first began this journey with your grandson?
Oh, great question. I think that that your relationship with your grandchild is its own thing,
Yes,
separate from the diagnosis. You've got
yes.
that relationship you're going to nurture.
Oh, I
You
love
don't have
that.
to become a therapist, an OT. You don't have to be teaching them speech. You don't have to become an autism advocate or an expert. You just have to show up consistently.
Yeah,
You need to love him without conditions, or
yes,
her,
yeah,
and let them teach you who they are.
yeah,
I think that's incredibly important, is to just be the observer,
yeah,
and be there judgment free. I think that Ben has taught me more than I have ever taught him.
yeah. I feel that way about Drayson. I feel like he
Nice.
has taught me so much in so many ways about just perspective and life and unconditional love and and advocacy, and
Hmm.
I never knew, to some degree, that I could speak up the way that I have spoken up for him.
Hmm.
I
That's
always say
great.
that inner mama bear that you don't realize that you have until you have kids. It's like, it's just, I never thought that I could do some of the things that I've done
Hmm.
for him if it hadn't been also from what he's taught me, you know, um,
Uh,
and knowing
you
that
know,
he's
sit,
capable.
sitting here and I'm thinking that I think living in the moment is a
Yes.
huge piece of what Ben
Yes.
has taught me, because he's not worrying about something that's going on tomorrow or what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, he is truly in the moment, and trying to be in that moment with him uh,
Yes.
just teaches me a lot. It's very freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just telling a mom the other day to take a step back and just observe, and just
Hmm.
to try to quiet the noise a little bit. And I said, and let me know what you find out, because I think you'll be surprised that there is a connection there, and that you can formulate that connection. Part of the conversation we were having was that she felt very disconnected from her son, and that was really hard for her. And I understand it's hard for me too sometimes when I feel like there's a disconnect.
Hmm.
And so I told her that. And about a week later, she sent me a text and said, I took your advice and I observed, and I've noticed some things about my child that I didn't see before. Thank you. Which I thought was
Nice.
really, really awesome,
Yeah, that is great.
And so sometimes I think but it's hard for us as parents because we're wearing so many hats. I think sometimes it's hard for us to stop and take that pause and to really just listen and observe, like you were saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the most important thing a grandparent can provide to support their autistic grandchild, like right now? Maybe
Now,
right now. What would be the suggestion that you would have?
unconditional presence, not fixing, not worrying out loud.
Yeah.
Don't Google cures for autism. Just don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
Google causes. Just being a safe and steady person in that child's life.
Yeah.
Kids on the spectrum struggle enough with a world that just feels unpredictable to them.
Yes.
And you can be the thing that isn't, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
huge. The other
Absolutely.
thing I'd add is get them swimming lessons
Oh, yes.
because
I did that with Drayson. Yeah, swimming lessons. That's a
yep,
great quick tip. Yeah.
93% of accidental deaths
Mm-hmm.
amongst autism people with autism involve water and drowning.
Yes. Wow. I didn't
93%. So
realize that
swimming
was such a high
lessons.
statistic. I didn't know it was that
Yeah.
high.
Yep.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I always like to mention it because if it saves one kid, that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you heard it, folks. Everyone's going to register for swimming lessons this summer. How about that?
They're out there.
I know. Jennifer, I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing for the neurodiverse community and all your hard work and dedication. So, and what you're doing for your family and for your own grandchild. So thank you so much from the bottom of
Thank
my
you.
heart. I think truly inspiring what you're doing today. So
Thank you, Nikki.
for those of you listening in, please check out Jennifer's book, which is called, Grandparenting on the Spectrum, A Journey from Both Sides of the Desk. And also feel free to also learn more about first response autism. I will post everything in the show notes as well. If you're interested in getting a hold of Jennifer, please do. I highly encourage it, especially if you're just looking for perspective, training, or anything, all of the above. I feel like Jennifer is a wonderful resource. And thanks again, Jennifer, for being on the show.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. Yes,
Thank you so much.
absolutely. This concludes our episode for today. If you have questions, comments, or even a show topic that you would like to hear about, please feel free to send me an email at info@piecesformypuzzle.com. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you have not done so already, or feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you like what you're hearing, please spread the word to others so that we can continue to encourage autism families. And feel free to give us a good rating on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, keep working on your puzzle. And remember, you don't have to have it all solved in a day. Take care.